Hi, everybody. We're going to start in 3 minutes. Great to see you, Avinash. It's been a long time. If you wouldn't mind doing me a favor. Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Uh-oh. You can see me now. Andrew, would you just put in the chat box that you can hear me okay? It'd be very helpful. I'm so used to Zoom where I can see everybody. John Joseph. Thank you for stopping in. That's so great. Great. And Naomi's here from England and she can hear me. So that's a relief. So 3 more minutes to start. New Jersey, Stephen Hawley. Welcome. Loud and clear. Hopefully it's not too loud. I've turned it down a little bit because, I can put out some sound. And for my really loud sounds today, I'm going to sort of do this, in this direction. So I don't blast anybody's computer speakers. All right, 2 more minutes to blast off. I hope you saw in the chat box that the links are there if you'd like to get a head start on downloading the links. I've got 2 links today, and I'll talk about what's different about them. You have 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. Oh, Masha. Oh, welcome from Italy. How exciting. John Joseph, I have been enjoying the photos I've been seeing. It's been a good 10, 12, 15 years? How long has it been? You look great. I'm really happy for you. Thanks, Andrew. All right, the numbers are going up. People are hopping on for my second live stream. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Oh, Lee Gray. Nice to see you, sort of see you in spirit, see you in my mind. Colleen, Kelly Brackenridge, hi. Thank you for stopping by. Is it 10? Almost 10. Almost showtime. Zagreb, Croatia. I had such a wonderful time there a few years ago. I hope to come back. Countdown, getting ready for 10. Oh, let's see, 10 o'clock. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping in again. This is my second live stream. This one is entitled, let me pull it up. This one is entitled Master Pop Vocal Styles, Pop, Rock, Jazz, R&B, and Country. 5 very popular American vocal styles. Now, I know it's a lot to say master, but mastery is a process and you have to start somewhere, right? We all start from nothing to something, and hopefully we can get to great if we want to. I'm Lisa Popeil, and my VoiceWorks method is just everything I have between my ears, everything I've learned in the last 50 years of singing and exploring singing, and everything I will learn in the future to try to help take the mystery out of singing and help people have the best voices possible. So we can solve vocal technique issues so that your confidence can be high and you can feel like you have an unlimited ability to express yourself with your singing voice in whichever style you like. I welcome you to my website, popeil.com. I have a lot of free videos there. They're also on my YouTube channel. Feel free to go to my YouTube channel anytime and subscribe. I will be creating more product. It's about time I created some new product for everybody. And if you have any questions, comments, problems, suggestions, feel free to email me at lisa@popeil.com, and I promise to get back to you. The chat box has the handouts for today, but if you don't mind doing it this way or you're having trouble with the chat box, this is the handout for mastering pop vocal styles today. Maybe you have a pencil, old school, writing that down. And also for today, I have another one. It's called suggested listening. And the reason for that is that for people who are just dipping their toe into a new vocal style, they may not know who the best people are to listen to. And so I've just made a short list of each of the 5 styles I'll be mentioning today, and just to help you steal from the greats better, rather than say, well, I don't really know who's good. These, I think, are the best of that style. There, I'm sure, just thousands more, but I had to choose. And so the ones I picked are pretty classic. They're pretty, some of them are fairly, they're older, but they are respected in their particular styles as great singers. All right, so let us start with our handout for today, if you have it, or if you don't. By the way, I've been getting a lot of requests for, are these videos, the first one, which is called 5 Things You Must Know About Belting, and today's pop vocal styles, are they going to be available available? And my answer is, they're going to be up on my YouTube channel, which is Lisa S. Popeil, Lisa S. for Stephanie Popeil. And they'll be up each for a week from the time I did them. And then I'm going to take them down, and then I'm going to put them on my store and make them a private YouTube link. So if you'd like the free version, please don't postpone. Try to see last ones, and it will be up till Tuesday, and this one will be available on my YouTube channel until Tuesday, March. I think it's March 9th. Now, some of you are this is your second time with my live stream, which I think is going well. By the way, if there is an audio problem, we had an audio problem last time, don't go away. It resolved itself. I don't believe it was on my end. It was somewhere in between. It's amazing that this works at all, like as well as it does. But we did have a major audio problem. I have clipped that out of the video that's up for my 5 Things You Must Know About Belting. So when you watch that, you don't have to go through that again. But just don't go, because it did resolve itself. I'd gotten out of sync video and audio about the 1 minute mark, and then boom, it made this noise and strangeness, and then it resynced itself. I don't know where that was. Hopefully that won't happen today. But if it does, hang in there, because it will resolve and will be good to go for the rest. I'm planning to talk for approximately 2 hours. It might be less. Let's see how much we get done. So for those who are new to this and did not attend my last one, I would like to do a little bit of a recap on posture and support, because it's so crucial to good singing, but specifically for pop singing. Pop singing requires a lot more air pressure hitting the vocal folds, because we use more. We need more air pressure because the vocal folds are taller. There's more flesh that's vibrating. And to make that happen, we need more pressure in the airstream or more support. I also have some, if we have time, I have some additional videos to show you from my last research project, which was in 2019 in the Czech Republic. Last week, I showed you some groundbreaking high-speed video of high Cs. That's C6 in both M1 and M2, meaning in chest and in head. You could see the difference. And I have a few more of those Cs to show you. So hopefully those will come up. So hopefully we'll have time to go through all of that. So briefly, and this is a little bit different than the handout, but posture is, I can't stress enough how important good posture is in specifically 2 ways. The back of the neck should be long and the chest should be high. Also, make sure that you do not pull your shoulders down and back. Make sure that your shoulders are directly over your hip bone, not over your rear end. So back of the neck long, chest high, soft bellies. That is the ideal start, so that when you support, you have a structure to work against. And for young people who are constantly texting, this becomes the new normal. So the normal for life and for singing, you want to imagine that you have a hook, and it's going to go under the bone, your sternum, and the hook is holding your chest up at all times. Never let it drop. So support, what is it? A lot of pedagogies teach that support is either not important or that you can support with your neck. There's many different styles of support that's taught around the world. I have investigated and experimented with all of them. And the one I'm going to show you, the basic 4 jobs of support, seem to work for everybody, for any style, for instant vocal improvement. So if you have any vocal issues, you just can't seem to fix. It could be pitch, it could be slow vibrato, it could be tension in your neck, it could be tight jaw, tight tongue, head pulling when you sing, tweaking, twisting. If you do posture and the 4 jobs we're going to go over very briefly right now, you may notice that problem that you thought was a register problem goes away. The problem you thought was a pitch problem goes away. So we are going to spend a lot of time today talking about pop vocal styles, but this is important, and you might not get this information anyplace else unless they're teachers who have worked with me, in which case, thank you for spreading the good word. So support, the word support is short for abdominal breath support. Support is great, though, because it implies that you're strongly using your body to make something happen. Keep in mind that support and breathing are 2 different things. Breathing is air coming into your body. Let's all take a breath. Just open your mouth. Feel air come low into your body. That's breathing. And then support is how you pressurize the air to make the vocal folds vibrate. You take your hand and you blow on your hand. You can feel the force in the air. Support creates that force, creates the pressure in the airstream, makes the vocal cords work so they can do what your brain, your artistry is asking them to do, and they'll do that consistently, even if you have to perform sick. And if you're a performer, you know that you're not always in perfect voice, you don't always feel great, and yet you have a gig that night and you want to sound your best. So posture and support will help you with that. So support jobs are between the shoulders and the hips. Briefly, the chest should stay up, no dropping when you sing. The rib cage, the side and the back should be a little wider than normal, just a little wider, what I call comfortably wide. Keep those out when you sing. Don't let them collapse. A lot of people do breathing in the ribs wide and the ribs widen, singing and the ribs collapse. You want pressure, extra pressure for pop singing styles. But this is good for classical too. Keep the rib cage expanded all the way around, but with soft bellies. When I say bellies, I mean an upper belly and a lower belly. They are 2 different things. The upper belly is this area, and the lower belly is the navel or belly button and just below it. And they have 2 different jobs. When you create your tall posture, this should be soft and this should be soft. And they should be soft for breathing as well. So the 3rd job of support is the upper belly magic spot. And I have a little guy here to help show you where it is. It is in different places for different people, but this is the most common place. This is not your diaphragm, this upper abdominal area. But when you use your upper belly magic spot, you want to firm it out for singing. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a way to control your diaphragm, which is actually higher in your rib cage. So to find this, take 3 fingers and put them right there. This is usually could be higher, could be off to the side. Mine is a little lower. Mine lower than most people's. Mine is right there. And its job in singing is to firm out for every note you sing. High notes, low notes, soft notes, loud notes, chest voice, head voice, straight tone, vibrato, any style. This upper belly magic spot Turns out it's the main controller of your vocal folds. And when you work it, not hard as a rock, don't stick it out hard, but don't let it come in. Keep it firmed out like a trampoline, but instead of a trampoline like this, it's a trampoline like this. It'll have some firmness to it, like a hard sponge, like a trampoline. So you firm it out for singing, and then you relax it for breathing. That's all you have to do. So here's an example. Shh, shh, shh. You might want to try that at home with a very loud sh. Notice or find the spot that goes out the most, and that will be your upper belly magic spot. The lower belly support, which is job 4, is thumb on the navel, hand with fingers together below. Its job in singing is to gradually go straight in for singing, relax it for breathing. Shh, 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 straight in, not in and down, not in and up, and definitely don't stick it out. Now, some people may find that works for them, but this method of straight in, clutching it in, relaxing for breathing, works for everybody. And it works for all styles. So I'd rather have something that works for everybody in all styles than something that works for some people for some styles. All right. We're going to talk about the ingredients of vocal styles. And the reason is that we're going to put it together like cooking. So I'm going to show you some of the basics, and then we're going to talk, and I'll demonstrate for you how these ingredients can be put together for singing a style authentically, like the greats do. At least we can strive towards that. And one of them is the topic of resonance. And you can see in your handout, if you have it, and the links are in the chat box, but I will put them back up again if you've just stopped by. Let me go back to here. And this is the main handout for you. And it's a 7-page handout, so plenty to see. So resonance, there are 3 basic bands of resonance. Your nasality, and this is your nasal sound. Ring, which is higher. I hope that didn't hurt anybody. I should warn you, huh? And I'll go off to the side. Here's ring. It really does have a cutting, piercing, metallic sound, which is great for all styles of singing. Those are the ring harmonics that I've made louder. And then brightness is this one. This is when you show your upper teeth and you sound very young and sweet and naive and innocent. So each of these 3 resonances, nasality, ring, and brightness, have characteristics. And we use all 3 alone or in combination in pop singing. But in classical singing, we use mostly ring and never nasality, at least not consciously. Nasality has a very important role to play in the 5 pop singing styles. In fact, if you don't have enough nasality, or you never have nasality in your pop singing styles, something can sound like it's missing. So nasality is not a bad thing. It's just a color. And certain styles are more nasal than others. And in a song, I can sing like that, and then I'm gonna add more. You can add more or less for even more colors. And that's one of the beautiful things about the pop vocal styles, or popular singing, popular music, commercial singing, CCM, some people call it, contemporary commercial music, is that you have so many colors to play with. Why? Because you have a microphone, you are amplified, so you can sing so softly, you can sing breathily with a great amount of breath in the sound. You could even whisper and people would still hear you. And in opera, you have to be able to sing over 100-piece orchestra minimum. And because of that, you don't have as many colors that you can do, because you need to be heard and still sing safely and beautifully for a couple of hours. So nasality, let's talk about that. So nasality is a low buzzy sound. And There are 4 buzzy sounds actually. And I and my research colleague and great friend, Michael Hill in London, he and I, if you're there, Michael, big shout out to you. You're a star. We've been experimenting, and Charles too, Charles Armstrong, we're working on this stuff. These are the 4 buzzy sounds, which I'll talk about, that I've never introduced before because I've just been thinking a lot about and experimenting with my research buddies. And it's really going to help you steal from great, let's say, rock singers, gospel singers, because what I used to think of as some kind of buzzy sound or nasality is actually caused by other things that you can do in your throat without squeezing your vocal cords. You never want to squeeze or press your vocal cords. That is a forever no-no. That's injurious to them. It's unattractive. It's ugly. It's not necessary. You can be very loud as a singer, and you should never squeeze or compress tightly your vocal folds. So where was I going? I was going to here, the nose. So I don't know if I don't know if you can see my cursor, probably not, but the part on the right-hand side, that hangy part, that's your soft palate. And when it hangs, your vocal fold buzzy sound, because that's all your vocal folds make, is a buzzy sound. In fact, let me show you this. You're going to get a kick out of this. This is a duck call. This is what people use to sound like ducks so they can kill the ducks. Not my idea of a good time, but it's very popular in the Midwest, upper Midwest, to go duck hunting. I bought this at a gun store 25 years ago. This is what a man's vocal cords sound like if he had no head. This is wild. It's really loud and it's really buzzy. Here we go. So if you're a teacher and you're interested in discussing science with your students, get yourself a duck call, because it shows things it's hard to describe. That when the vocal folds vibrate, they make a loud buzzy sound. And all we're doing in our throats and our nose and our mouth, that's our resonator, those 3, throat, mouth, and nose, that can make the buzz, certain elements, certain frequencies of the buzzy sound softer or louder.
And I can do like that, and you can hear in this sound more what my buzzy sound really sounds like.
Right? It's just like a smaller duck call. I wonder if they have girl duck calls. That would be great. It's like, this is me with no head, and then I play this higher duck call. But that's the one I played was a man. And then, anyway, your students won't forget that. It's just, I didn't. All right, so nasality, let's go back to the nose. So nasality happens when the buzzy sound in your vocal folds gets up in your nose. So basically when here's the back of your throat, here's your soft palate. So when it's hanging, I'm more nasal. And when I lift it, I'm less nasal. More nasal, less nasal, not nasal. So you can have like a dimmer switch on a light. You can have more or less of it by moving your soft palate. And the more nasal you are, the more you'll feel vibration inside your nose, your sinuses. Now, it's got a low buzz, by the way. It's of the buzzes, the 4 buzzy sounds we'll talk about, it's the low one. And even though alone it sounds ugly and strange, well, ring does too, but when you add it to your sound, it can have marvelous emotional results or stylistic benefits. Ring is exciting, it's piercing, it's metallic. And in some people, it can sound like bells or angels singing. And when you make your ring louder, it will take your sound and make it cut. So when you're doing a pop song or any kind of pop song, and you want your choruses to really have some excitement to it, add ring. And the easiest way to make more ring is to do ick face. You pull up on the side of the nose like something bad smelling, like, ooh, dog poop, yucky. And think pointy, like you're a bird, like a toucan with a long beak, or that you are Pinocchio with a long nose, and thinking pointy like that will change your throat shape to amplify ring. Brightness, all you have to do is show your upper teeth, and you could show lower teeth too, but it's ugly, so I don't recommend it. I recommend just showing upper teeth. And this does not make you sound louder because human ears don't hear this as loud, but dogs and cats do. So if you have a dog or a cat, try this sound, and you'll see their ears go crazy because that's loud to their ears, and to our ears, it's not loud, but it adds character of happiness, youth, and optimism. All right, let's move on in the handout to and I've got that here. We've got 3 upper throat widths in the handout, but the one that makes a buzzy sound is the one where you constrict in the upper throat. Now, very important if you want to experiment with this, that you don't squeeze your vocal cords. It's just the upper throat. What you do is you take 2 fingers and you stick them up in there. Should feel like a gap, like a hole between the muscles. And this has 3 positions: neutral, constricted, neutral, wide. Watch me do it again, and then you can try it. Neutral, constricted. You'll feel it better if you use your fingers like this. So let's do that. Just listen again. Neutral, constricted, neutral, wide. So try that with me. Neutral, constricted, neutral, wide. And we do use a lot of neutral. I use neutral and wide. Well, when we get to the vocal styles, you'll see how we use those. But I'm just kind of going on with the buzzy sound, because there's really 4 different ways to make buzzy sounds. You know what? I think I'm going to wait on this. Let me wait on this, because this got a long Latin word. So I won't forget, because I'm so excited to share it with you today, because I haven't codified these until today. So we'll come back to that. So at least we know that true nasalities in the nose, and the other 3 buzzy sounds are not in the nose, but you may think they're buzzy. All right. Let me take a break and just let you know that I have a book I'd like to share with you that it has more of this information. It's co-written with my friend Gina Latimerlo. It's from 2012. And if you like this topic and you want to get more deeply into vocal styles, not just pop ones, do get the book. It's available as a regular book. I even have CDs and an ebook, or an ebook, Kindle book. It's available on Amazon, not with the CD though. But if you wanted one with a CD, I can get one for you and mail it to you in the US with a CD. But it's all available at singanything.com. That's the website. And I made a lot of exercises just for each style. So each style in the book has 4 different custom-made exercises. And we're going to talk a little later about what I call stylisms. Those are things like growling, cries, a number of other sounds. In fact, it's on the handouts. Let's see. We've got fry slides. Let's see. We've got falsetto flips, yodels, shadow vowels. So I've got a whole list of stylisms that I recorded that also are available with the Sing Anything Mastering Vocal Styles book. All right, enough on that plug. Let us, we'll come back to the buzzes in a second. Let's talk about vocal fold closures. So we've got clean, E. These are my vocal folds. In case you're wondering, why do I have my hands in front of my face? Okay, so E. And then blowy is really great for pop, particularly the pop. Let me just explain something, because pop is a weird word, because it's like, is it a vocal style or is it overarching category? It's both. So you could say pop styles, and then in that case, pop really stands for popular vocal styles, commercial vocal styles. Like you could say jazz is under the umbrella of pop styles. So that's why it can be confusing. But today we're going to focus on a pop style versus a jazz style versus R&B versus rock versus country. What makes them different from one another? And that can be tricky too, because everyone over time does these combinations. There might have been an original country, and then it became a pop country, and then it's got pop country with R&B in there. That's why often I pick singers for you to listen to who are more pure. They're more of the originators of the sound rather than the modern singers who might be combining 2, 3, even 4 different styles to make something fresh and unique. So blowy is when the vocal folds are open a little bit in the back. Let me do it like that for you. And they're probably open about 1 millimeter, something like that. And so air's coming through. Here's the sound of blowy, but it doesn't sound breathy. So when I sing like that, that's a blowy sound. Another way you know you can have a blowy sound is that if you put your palm in front of your mouth and you sing and you support upper belly magic spot firmed out, when you sing like that, you should feel hot steam on your hand, but you should not hear breathiness. You shouldn't hear that wasted sound. So blowy and clean are the 2 main closures you will use for all singing of all the pop styles, the umbrella, commercial vocal styles. You may occasionally want to be breathy, and there's actually 3 kinds of breathiness. There's slightly breathy. Did you hear the air that time? Slightly breathy, moderately breathy, moderately breathy, very, very breathy. So they do have a place. Again, you can still be heard because you will either have a microphone here, or if you're in musical theater, you will have a microphone attached to your head, in your hair, by your face. So you can be heard and be really soft. So you've got these 3 choices for the pop styles, the commercial styles: clean, blowy, and some kind of breathy. And the breathier you are, the more open they are in the back. But the more drying it is too, and it can tickle or cough, and it can sound like you're trying too hard to be sexy. Happy birthday, Mr. President. You can sound like you're trying too hard. So I recommend breathiness occasionally, but I personally don't like it as a main way to sing. Straight tone and vibrato. In classical singing, it's almost all vibrato. It's almost always vibrato. I'm going to say in modern classical singing, it's at least 95% vibrato, maybe even some singers 98% vibrato, and only 2 to 5% straight tone. But it's very different in the commercial singing styles. Most notes are in straight tone, and vibrato becomes a volitional ornament. Big word, let me explain. Volitional means I choose to make the ornament. It's where the pitch goes up and down. And I can do about at least six different styles of vibrato. And I help people experiment with different vibrato types. And they might use a vibrato type like this one, what I call the jazzy vibrato. Hey, because I like to use that when I'm singing in a sultry kind of jazz. And in that one, the hyoid bone, which sits up here. Let's see if I have a picture of the hyoid bone here, and I don't. All righty, sorry about that. It's a little bone under your tongue at the top of your neck. Mine is actually moving like that. Hey, can you see my finger? Hey. So that's one of the hallmarks of one I call the jazzy vibrato. This is not to say all jazz singers use that vibrato. Not at all. There are jazz singers who use what I call a classical vibrato, where I think it's Ella Fitzgerald. I hear sometimes a classical vibrato or a pop vibrato, But the ones I use are the jazzy vibrato and the pop vibrato. And the pop vibrato, there's a little bit of rocking from side to side, and it sounds like this. Yeah, how are you? And I can make mine faster a little bit. Or I can make it slower. So a lot of people are surprised to learn that there are different ways to do vibrato, that it's not an accident. You can choose which notes to do vibrato on, and that you can control the speed. So that makes vibrato an even more wonderful thing, because now you have artistic choices with your vibrato. It doesn't just appear and you don't know where it is. It is a mechanism, and it's important to not just have it happen. We tend to use vibrato in the pop styles on held notes, E, and last notes. Hello. So held notes, last notes, held note, last notes. That's when we use it, but there's no rule. You could sing straight if you wanted to. I think of vibrato as dessert. Straight tone is a very important meal. No, and then the vibrato is like the dessert at the end of it. Dialects, a lot of people, particularly those outside the US, are surprised to learn that there isn't just one way to sing in an American accent. There are actually 3 ways. I mean, there's at least 3 ways. The first one I would call standard American. And that is more traditional pop singing. So it'd be like I might sing the word mother, mother, with an R that you can hear as a tip coming back R, a retracted tip. Mother, father, sister, brother. That would be a standard R. But ever since African American influence took over, became so beloved in the US, most pop singers now don't sing that R. They might say, they do the R as more of a vowel, like mother. Now, when I say it, it sounds weird, right? It's like, well, no, I don't do that when I sing, but yes, we do. So let me try it first as a spoken sound. This is the one that is, I'm calling the soft R. And I'm going to take the tip of my tongue. I'm going to put it against my bottom teeth. And then I'm going to round my lips. Try that. So here's what it sounds like in speech. Mother, father, sister, brother. And this is part of what I call soul pronunciation. This softer or not really an R at all. It's an R, but it's a vowel. And now if I sing, like if I do mother, father, sister, brother. You see, it doesn't sound weird. It sounds pop, right? So that soul pronunciation is the most common way to sing in the pop styles for most of the pop styles that we'll be reviewing today. The hard R, the really hard R, we use that in traditional country. Mother, father, sister, and brother. But in country pop, they might use a softer R, or at least less retraction, less tongue pulling, tip of the tongue pulling back. So there's degrees of it. So when you listen to your favorite singer, listen to the final R's and discern which R are they doing, or how hard or soft is their R. Again, a hard R is that would be the hardest R I can make. The softest R I can make is and anything in between. Another element of standard versus soul versus what I'm calling the deep south. This is also in the handouts. For those of you who are still coming in the chat box, you'll see a link to my 2 handouts for today. So that's great. You can go right to it and take a peek and follow along with me. I know I'm going to give you a lot of information today, but I can't help myself. It's such an exciting topic. And there aren't many teachers who actually have attempted to master different vocal styles. And it's always been intriguing to me, partly because when I was a session singer in the 80s and early 90s, doing commercials and TV and film singing, I wanted to be more commercial, meaning I wanted to be more employable. So I wanted to have as much diversity as possible and not just have one sound. So when people come to me and say, well, what's my sound? Well, in my opinion, you don't have one. If you are in China, you're going to sound one way. If you grew up in Congo, you're going to sound. So style, this is an important concept I want to share with you today, that styles, you can't really separate styles from the culture and the history that gave birth to that style. Styles are not just getting the sounds right. Now that's, I wanted to get the sounds right. But if you're really going to immerse yourself in a vocal style, you've got to kind of like this. You've got to at least like the style, if not love it. Otherwise, you won't be listening and imitating enough to be good in that style. And imitation is one of the lost arts of voice study, because people who are serious about vocal improvement are often afraid or are told to not imitate, that you need to find your own style. Well, the great singers, very few of them ever had a voice lesson. So how did they learn to sing? The way humans have always learned to sing, by imitation. So the takeaway points of this little discussion is, number one, styles cannot be separated from culture and history. And if you want to master a style, you need to be immersed in that understanding of what the history was that led to those particular sounds. Two, yes, it's important when you're trying to master a vocal style to get the sound as close as possible, but not just imitating a sound. I really encourage you to feel the feelings. And in fact, when we go over all the different styles, there are different feelings that each style does better than any other style. So there was another takeaway on this, and that is that you have to really like or love a style. Otherwise, you won't spend the time. You don't want it to be torture. This is singing, right? It's supposed to be enjoyable. And if you're here, it's because, like me, you are a curious person and you just can't get enough. This is your passion. I just want to be good. And if you only pick one style, that's great. But if you're like me and you're interested in how different singers make different sounds, then that's why this workshop, I think, can be very valuable. At least to help you explore and get started with a new style, give you a roadmap. All right, let's get back to American dialects. One of the main differences between Standard American, Soul, and the Deep South is the diphthong, I-E, I-E. It's the most common double vowel sound. Diphthong means double vowel. And it's the most common one in the English language. It's in the word I, my, tie, shy, I, might. Often written with an I, but not always. So it's an ah that's held from your point of view. I, the little soft E at the end. And if I sing with that, give me one sec, I'm going to cough. Thank you. I should have done that away from the mic, sorry. If you sing I love my life, nothing wrong with that. That's for pop singing, that's great. It's just that in R&B, which has African American roots, you wouldn't say that. You'd say like my life, try, style, I. And you have to practice it to make sure that each time you're saying the I diphthong in a song, that they're all consistently I. And when I work with foreign singers, particularly in Scandinavia, they know this, because they've imitated so much American pop music. And in contemporary pop music, it's still this I is more common now than IE. I don't hear IE very much anymore, but I do hear it. It's more kind of white or proper. So that the soul pronunciation is I, but then you'll sometimes hear people do what I'm calling deep south. And in deep south, for this diphthong, IE, it's not a diphthong at all. It's just ah. I love my life. It's just ah. And I don't recommend it unless that's the way you grew up singing, because it can sound like a put on. And so I is in a softer R or a completely vowel R are the two things to master if you're going to do contemporary pop, jazz, R&B, rock, because rock and roll also comes from R&B. It's heavily influenced by R&B. And I'll talk more about R&B when we get there. Like, well, is gospel R&B? And we'll get there. So one of the most important ways you can start getting into a style, and I have this in the handout, I have the photos, is the resonator shape. Now, I've taken some flack for that. Like, some people have called it pulling faces. Like, if you make a face, then you're going to sing that style. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I began my quest to master vocal styles by watching great singers who were acknowledged greats in their style, and I would do everything they did. And then I would reverse engineer what they, because I could sound like them. I can mimic other people. And then I'd say, well, what am I doing? What are all my body parts doing from here to here? Even the head position, I would imitate everything. So I encourage you to watch great singers singing live, not on music videos, because they're just trying to look good for the camera. So you can watch live videos. They don't have to be live, but live videos of live singing, and just do and look at their mouths. It's not an accident. And I started to see in each style, there were certain things I saw over and over again, and you'll see in the handout the ones I picked. So for pop, just a generic pop style, just a simple smile. So try that at home. You can see teeth. Now, interestingly, the more teeth you show, the brighter the sound will be. That does high frequencies. If you're sciencey, that will be above 4,000 hertz. If you were to sing into a spectrogram app, you could see that 4,000 and up when you sing, but 4,000 and up will be amplified. That's the happy sound. Now, if you in the example in the handout of Andy Williams, you're not going to see 10 teeth. You may see 4 teeth. That will create a pop sound, but that's sadder. So the happier you are, the more teeth show, and the sadder you are, the fewer teeth show. It's less bright sounding. In square mouth, that's for rock singing. Now, not every rock singer sings with square mouth, but I found 3 examples that I included in the handout that are really good examples of the square mouth. Now, it's not just the lips that make a square mouth, it's inside. So let me guide you through this. Make this sound for me first. I call it the full tube, and we use this one for country, but just do for me, ha, 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 ha. I know it sounds a bit strange. Ha. And feel like your tonsils are touching or trying to touch. Ha, ha, ha. Now that's full tube. Now we're going to expand the mouth and say ha, 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 ha. That's the shape that I call square mouth. It's a rectangle. And this is particularly good for rock singing. It's just a ha, ha, ha. But you first have to get the ha, 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 which is the smaller shape in the throat, and then ha, ha. Now, do you hear that buzzy sound that I'm making? Ha, ah, ah, ah. go back in your handouts, or no, actually I have it here. This is a great way for me to get into the 4 buzzy sounds, and there may be more, but nasality we talked about, that's controlled by the soft palate hanging or lifting. The one I just used is the superior pharyngeal constrictor. I know that's a mouthful, but when you eat, we need to get the food to go down into the stomach and not just get stuck back there. So right behind your mouth, and I do have a drawing of this for you. So right behind your mouth is this hand-like muscle. It's right in the back of your throat. It's in the back of your throat back there. And when you squeeze it, it squeezes forward and it makes your throat narrower. So the one I just did, the ha, 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 is squeezing my highest pharyngeal constrictor. We have 3 of them, the top, the middle, and the bottom. But technically known, if you want to research it more, is superior pharyngeal constrictor, middle pharyngeal constrictor, and the inferior. Now, inferior in this case does not mean worse. It just means lower. So we could say top one, bottom one, or upper one, lower one, whatever you want. But it's right behind, straight back in the mouth. So try that on the ah, ah. And notice it's a buzzy sound, but it's not the same as that sound. That sound is real nasality. And that sound is my pharyngeal constrictor. Now you can use both in different degrees, but I just wanted to help you isolate this because we use that in rock singing. So if I'm doing, I can't get no satisfaction, you hear that extra gnarly sound? That's partly nasality, but mostly squeezing that thing forward. And it won't hurt your vocal cords because it's inches apart and we're not squeezing them. So the third buzzy sound that singers can make for pop styles is the inferior, the pharyngeal constrictor, the lower one. And here's a picture of that. So that's behind the voice box, behind the voice box. And if you want to experiment with this, it sounds like this. It feels like I'm pushing forward with my back of my throat in this area. Ah, ah, ah. See, it's got a different identifiable sound. Try that. Ah, ah, ah. Now, when you put all of these 4 buzzy sounds together, it's too much. But people do it and they get a very exciting, what I'm calling a gnarly sound. You know, it sounds like it's kind of nasty and aggressive, and in context can be very exciting and is not heard of, is not perceived as ugly like it does when I'm just making the sound. All right, and the 4th way to make a buzzy sound is when your upper throat, we did the 3 before. Remember, we did neutral, constricted, neutral, wide. Well, when you do constricted, make sure you don't squeeze your voice box or your vocal cords. You're just squeezing right at the top here, upper throat, technically called the hypopharynx for you voice nerds out there. When I'm doing that one, it has its own unique buzzy sound that's kind of high. It kind of has a high sound. And again, you can play, that's another workshop where we put these into practice, and on certain words, you can make them come in and out so that you could, well, I'll just give you an example. Let's say I'm doing no, that was the superior one. No. And then I relax it and then it's open again. And when you can just do them and then in and out. And that's just like, whoa, it keeps people excited and awake. So in the square mouth, the ha, 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 I now know, I didn't know this before, but that superior pharyngeal constrictor is squeezing forward, narrowing that little space in your throat behind your mouth and helping that sound. Jazz singing, there are actually a couple of in my view, two basic kinds of jazz sounds or styles, sub-styles. One is what I call sultry. And that's the one where you sound like that, the nearness of you. It's not the pale moon that excites me. By the way, that was blowy. That was that slightly open closures. It sounds heartfelt. Doesn't sound like I'm singing from my brain. Clean closure gives you that sound. We can use that too, but sultry uses blowy more. There's hot steam in my mouth and coming onto my hand, and all over droplets all over them. Anyway, it's sexy. And for that one, we're going to use fish lips. Try this, say, just soft lips that come forward. It's a very French thing. Say, je t'aime, I love you, I want to kiss you. From across the room, there's a fish lips. So it's not tense, just slightly protruded. And this helps create, it's one of the ingredients in a sultry, sexy jazz sound that so many people love to do and love to listen to. But there's another jazz style that I call swing jazz. And swing jazz would be like singing jazz songs with a big band. And that could be a different shape altogether. And that's more of a smile. It's like that way, you've got that going on. It's a smile. There's also another mouth shape that I use for brassy belting, which is one too many shapes for today. I have about eight different shapes for different styles. So I'm going to leave that one out. Just say for now, smile for swing jazz and fish lips for sultry jazz. Okay, there's some question I think that just came up about the chat. So let me put the two handout links for you in the chat box for those who maybe need it. Hopefully you get there. Boo, boo, boo. There we go. Go, everybody. And that way you can follow along. So, yeah, just sing with fish lips and blowy closure, and you're halfway there. R&B. It's like, what? Yeah, see, when I do this, it says, there's like this, the first handout link isn't working. Okay. And I'm not sure why, because it should. And this first time I've put links in the chat box. So I'm just going to go back and sorry, I'm just got to ask you this is the main handout. I'm just going to ask you to write it down and go to it. I apologize because when I put it up in the chat box, sometimes it comes up with an error message. I don't know what that's about. A little allergic today. Sorry, I have to dab my schnoz. Dab my nose. So you got that one? Did you write that one down, everybody? Here's the listening list for later. I'm going to leave that up for a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and leave the other one up for a little bit. Okay. So R&B, it's a lot of different things. It's related to spirituals. It's related to the blues. Rhythm. R&B stands for rhythm and blues. But it isn't just one thing. There's even adult contemporary, which is like Peabo Bryson and Whitney Houston. There's gospel and how they all relate to each other and what led to what. Interestingly, the gospel singers feel that they are the root of all contemporary R&B styles. Some people call it soul singing. Other people say soul is more soft and romantic. There's not a lot of agreement on what's what and what came first. So I'm just calling it rhythm and blues, R&B, soul. I'm calling it all one thing. But the main characteristic of it, let me go back to here and leave this up for a while for you, is that it comes from the influence from Africa, the African American style that is just people love it and they want to add it. Even in country now, we're hearing R&B elements in country. And the mouth shape I see a lot, not always, but I call it water in the mouth. Imagine you have water in your mouth like that, and you don't want to dribble, okay? Now, it's important to have the tongue not move. We do not want the tongue to, and you know what, just to let you know that this handout, if you're having trouble downloading it, just email me at Lisa Popeil, and I'll just send it to you. I'll just email it to you because I want everyone to have it because it's valuable. You know, this is based on 50 years of trying to figure this stuff out and 40 years of teaching. So I want you to have this material because it'll help you as a singer and definitely help you as a teacher, especially if you grew up studying classical voice and want to expand out, or if you're a choral director and you want to add more pop, or you have pop soloists. This is important stuff to know from someone who was I trained classically till I was 15. From 7 to 15, I was all classical training. And then I got my master's degree in classical voice. So I know where you're coming from. I know the questions and the problems that you may be having. So I'll take care of you as regards the handout. So just email me. I'll always get back to you and give you what you need. So back to R&B, water in the mouth. Imagine you have water like in the old days, if you're older and you went to the dentist and they didn't have that auto suck machine. So you had to have water in your mouth. And you'll see this a lot. You'll see that. Yeah. I've got that going on. That wide mouth, but also the cheeks are lifted and a little wide. And that really helps you sound more soulful. Just that basic mouth. And my examples in the handout are Denise Williams and Ezekiel Walker. Again, there are a lot of R&B singers who don't use this, but you will see it a lot. There it is. There's the water in the mouth. Or if you prefer, you could call it bucket mouth. Like I'm catching snowflakes. Just as long as it looks like that. Country singing. And a lot of people outside the U.S. don't know about country singing, but in England, it's really popular because our country singing, which came from the Irish, Scottish, English immigrants who came down in the 1700s into the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know what that was. In the U.S., brought their beautiful melodies and their storytelling. So country is a story-based style. And, but they tend to have quite a tight mouth. I call it tight teeth. Tight teeth for country helps you get a really authentic traditional sound. Now, tight teeth means you can't get a finger between your teeth. So you're not going to open your mouth, which may be strange. Even on higher notes, you're going to keep the teeth in that position, the tight teeth position. Now, let's go back to that full tube shape. Say, ha, 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 and feel that this is a little constricted, ha, 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 and that your tonsils are touching, ha, 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 and the lips are a little bit curved, ha, ha, ha. And when I'm singing like that, and then make sure your tongue is a little more retracted for all of it. This is for the traditional country sound and the accent. The Southern accent, a Texan accent. Texan tends to be a little more nasal. But anyway, and now when I'm singing and I use that sound, then it helps get you a more of a traditional country sound. But if you're new to country singing, the songs are some of the best in all of commercial singing. The lyrics, the stories, we can relate to them. The stories of frustration and hard life, and nobody says it better, really, about the problems and joys of love than particularly the problems as country singing does. And you'll see in the hand, you'll see who am I recommending. Let's see if I have it. I don't have it handy here, but for the full tube with the shape, I've got Carrie Underwood and Travis Tritt as the examples. I didn't know we'd have a problem, sorry, with this handout situation. So I would have had all of this coming up, but I just figured you'd be able to follow along with me. So this is the pièce de la résistance. I have this for a lot of styles. Let's see if I can get this so this isn't blurry. Let's see, it's blurry. That's too bad. That's a sad thing, because I have in my Total Singer workshop, which I haven't done in a few years, but it was called the VoiceWorks method and the pedagogy of styles, meaning opera, operetta, legit, and then all these styles too. So I was comparing the difference between all these styles in a chart form. And all the info that I'm teaching and I'm talking to you about right now are in the handouts. So whether you email me for them or whether you go to the handout link, they're going to be available. Just get to me and I'll get it to you. And so let's say I'm going to start with pop. So when I'm singing a pop style and I've got a simple smile lit down, but notice I'm more airy. It's more air in the sound. So I'm blowy on the verse. And when I get to the chorus, I'm doing clean closure, adding a little ring, adding a little nasality. So now my choruses have some lift in them. They have more, I mean it. But then I might go back to blowy or even breathy. And I've taken the nasality out, but I still got the little smile, the upper teeth showing. Mostly straight tone in pop singing, mostly straight tone. And then I might do vibrato at the end, like that. So it's not vibrato is not a predominant feature of pop singing. I'm using the pop vibrato, which means that my voice box is wiggling up and down. And it's rocking a tiny bit from side to side so that the box is actually, let me do it like this. Here's my box. Here's my Adam's apple. It's actually doing that a little bit. Now, a lot of pop singers don't do that, but many do. And that's the way I do it. So that would be a pop vibrato, and I can make it faster by willing it. You can make a vibrato faster by wiggling your fingers like that. Or just willing it to be faster. But first you have to know that you can, that not everyone can, but most people can control their vibrato speed. My voice box is either in its regular position, hello, I'm at my number 3 position, or I can raise it up to a number 2, and that will make me sound more needy. I need you, don't leave me. Oh, I can't live without you. So that would be the number 2 larynx, slightly raised, slightly higher voice box. This now I'm using a standard dialect, but I do actually need to change this because it also should be, I'm going to go back and revisit this. So it really is the soul pronunciation is pretty standard now for this. So when I'm singing pop, I'm probably going to say life, my life, not my life. So I do see I need to change that on here. And also remember, I'm going to use that softer R for pop because that's the soul way. Mother, father. So standard, if you got some people checked in with me early and got the handout, maybe printed it out, just change that dialect, change it, just put soul down for that one. Also, I'm using the neutral pharynx, throat, whatever you want to call it. I'm using neutral when I sing like that. I might use constricted occasionally, but mostly it's neutral. Can you hear that? Can you hear how that one ingredient is there? Emotions for pop singing. It's just nice. It's sweet. It's sincere. It's warm. I'm not trying to make a big point. Now, there are singers like Katy Perry, who's considered a pop singer, but she's really a pop rock singer. Same thing with R&B, some R&B elements. Same thing with Sia. They get very powerful When you get really powerful, now you're heading into rock territory. So even though they may be considered pop singers, or they may be singing pop songs, their singing style is pop rock. Now that's something to think about, is that the style of the song may be different from the style of the singer. They're not always the same. So I wanted to take a break and just let you know about my total singer, because I do demonstrate. I created little mini songs for each of the styles, and I demonstrate them. I made this a long time ago. I made it in 1994. And I didn't know a lot about the mechanics yet. That I've been doing research for 25 years. And so that's in the meantime, actually started doing research a year after I made this, but it's still, people love it. And it's got an 88-minute DVD. It's got 30 minutes of classical vocal exercises and 30 minutes of challenging pop and belting exercises. And there's a booklet that comes with it. And the booklet is in its 5th edition, because I've been revising my thinking about vocal registers over the years. And so if you go to my website and you're in the US, you can order it. If you're in the US, you can order a hard copy. I'll mail it to you, but it's available, downloadable to everybody, US, around the world. And you can, see me with a lot more hair. And you can hear me demonstrate in more detail these different vocal styles. All right. So back to, we're talking about pop. We're talking about the emotions. Also, if you come from a classical background, or actually if you come from a musical theater background where everything is very, very crisp, we don't sing with crisp articulation in pop singing. Really, none of these pop styles. The words, even in country where the words are important, they're less crisp. They're less everything's less enunciated, more relaxed. Remember that the pop styles is not based on training. It's based on how people talk. And people don't talk like this. But musical theater is more trained, and the story needs to be heard. The words need to be intelligible in the back of the auditorium, so they enunciate more strongly. So in my chart, hopefully you'll see that I have mumbly and crisp, and some are more mumbly and some are crisper, but in general, quite relaxed in the lips and in the enunciation. We'll get to stylisms. Actually, I'll do it now. So a couple of the characteristic stylisms, we could call those just sounds or vocal gimmicks. You'll hear in pop might be the cry. Here's a cry. No, can, to. Where you start in a light head voice and you do a really quick down to the chest voice. No, can, to. And I often do it, and people often do it on words that begin with an N. No, that begin with a K sound. Can, call, come. Or the words that begin with a T. To. That's an example of a cry. Fry is very common. I hope you're trying that at home. And you can do a fry slide. I, particularly on words that begin with a vowel. I am an elephant. So fry slides, where you slide up to the note, I, and then you sing the note. Very common. You would never do that in classical singing. We can also in pop do a falsetto flip. No, hey, it's like a yodel, except it only goes up and it's not as cracky. Like a yodel, which you might do in country singing. No, oh, hey, 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 oh, 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 oh. It's more cracky and it goes up and down. But the falsetto flip is lighter, softer, and you only go up. Yay, 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 no. So that's called the falsetto flip. Okay, let's go on to rock singing. So rock is what is it? It's more aggressive. It's more sexual. It's more masculine. It draws on blues and pop elements. It's a loud amplified style accompanied by electric guitar, drums, bass. It gets you in the gut. It's almost violent sometimes. And the square mouth, as we talked about, the ha, 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 that shape with a superior pharyngeal constrictor working, that's going to make you sound gnarlier without hurting your vocal cords. Tonier, which tends to be less breathy. It has more tone in it. Can be very nasal or just moderately nasal. Not as much vibrato. It's got a lot of straight tone going on. Often with the higher larynx. So an example would be of that number 2 larynx. So here's an example. Hey, I know that you are talking to me. Also dialect. We wouldn't say talking. So that was my bad. It's talking to me. Talking to me. Yeah. So you can hear the bluesy elements in it. It's just extremely loud. But I'm still being careful not to press my chords. I'm still thinking clean closure for that sound. The pharynx often constricted just for a little extra buzz. Hey, hey, hey. But you don't have to. It could be neutral. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that can have more of a heroic rock sound when you have that neutral, that just normal position and you don't squeeze that. And what I'm hoping is that when you start to listen to people anywhere or from my suggested listening list, that you can start to hear these elements separately from one another. Instead of just hearing a blast of sound, you go, oh, I can hear that now. I can hear, we added ring on that note. Or, oh, I can see his mouth shape in my mind. Or I can feel when he sings that he's doing that with his throat. Or I can feel when that pharyngeal constrictor is squeezing in like that. You can just be them more because you can separate things. And now we have names for all these different mechanisms. Quite mumbly. Rock tends to be quite mumbly. There are times you might have a favorite Rolling Stones song and never knew what the words were. A couple of words here and there, and you still love the song. So the words aren't that important. It's the sound. It's the energy that matters. We'll use fry, of course, in rock. I. Now you can do fry and go straight to the note. I, or the fry slide. I. You can also put fry in the middle of a word, like knowing. You could put fry in the middle. You could put fry at the end. Knowing. That's a very bluesy thing to do. It shows defeat, resignation. Life's not looking good. Also growling. There's different kinds of growls, but the standard growl, it makes me cough. I don't do it a lot. Guys seem to be able to do growling more comfortably than women do. And if you do it a lot, it can be harmful because the arytenoid cartilages are chaotic. The little thumbs in the back, or they're moving like this. And the back of the vocal folds, everything's chaotic. The false vocal folds might be involved. So if it hurts to do, let's say you wanted to try growl. If you want to do it softly with a lot of air coming through. And then try a quick growl and then slide up like this, like growl slide. And you may find, yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that didn't hurt. Didn't tickle, didn't make me cough, because that's bad. If you feel a tickle or pain or cough, then don't do it, I would say. It's not for everybody. But if you can do it, it's a really powerful thing. And you hear it in gospel, and you can hear it in rock a lot. All right, still with me? Yay, look at you guys. Let's take a moment. If you'd like to know more about belting and what is belting, and this was a workshop that I did years ago for the National Association of Teachers of Singing. I had about 60 teachers there, and we worked on some of the basics of what is belting. And because all of these styles we're talking about today, except maybe jazz, sultry jazz doesn't use chest voice. So belting basically is a taking a chest voice or a talking sound up higher than it normally wants to go. But I can do any note of my range in chest voice and any note of my range in head voice. So it's not, you can do it. If you have the skill, you can do any note in either. So this has a little more of that. Actually, that would be a great time to show you things that, which is an introduction to some of my high speed, because it's about that I don't believe in mix. I believe that you're always in one or the other. So let me just take a little break from styles. I'll come right back to that. But we're doing great on time. Probably stop early today. So here is, let me start with what I showed last time. These are very brief. These are, I don't know if anyone's done this in the world, this kind of research with super high speed video camera. This is me singing a high C. Let me get my piano on here. I have a piano here. There it is. That's a really high note, okay? Here's me doing it in what I'm calling M1, which is a version, it's just chest. It's just what I think of as chest. Let's see if this shows up. See how they're kind of banging a little bit and staying closed? Bang, bang, bang. So that's that one. Now here's the same note, but it's in head voice, but not weak. I tried to make them sound as much the same as I could. I hope you enjoy this because I find it very exciting. You should notice that they look different. So it's about the same volume, about the same sound. I try to minimize the differences, but you can see that like they're not even touching. All right, now here's the C, this one. The one that gets so many pop singers if they're used to singing in their head voice. And now they're going to try to do it in chest and they're having trouble with it. Support will help with that, I promise. So here's C5 in M1. Again, look for that sort of banging, bulkier vocal fold, closed more than half the time. And now here's the same note, C5 in M2, head voice. They look very similar, except the edge is a little bit thinner. They're a little less bulky, and they're open more than closed. And then this is middle C. Now you're really seeing, this is M1, chest voice. They're really much shorter and thicker now. And, you know, that I shouldn't say banging because they're clapping, but they're kind of sticky, like they're staying closed more than half the time. Let's compare that to C4 in head voice. Now they're starting to splay out like in an oval pattern and much more air coming through. Now, I don't know if anyone's looked at chest and head on a low C. A lot of women don't have this note, but I'm a mezzo. I actually have an A2. But I wanted to compare, and I have all this on all my notes, but I wanted to show you in the C's. So look at the shortness of and how thick they are, and that kind of pasty, they kind of glue together and then peel apart. Let's watch that again. That's the chest voice sample on a low C. They're staying together even longer. Again, I'm not making this one louder than the head voice. I'm trying to make them the same. And last sample is head voice. Look at that. It's so open. Like only the back ends are touching. The front ends, let's watch that again. Crazy, huh? The front ends, which are down at the bottom of the picture, are not even closing. So there's lots to investigate. If you're interested if you have 4 C's and can sing in chest and head on all of them, let me know, because I may ask you to be involved in some future. I'm doing a project now at the University of Madison, and they want to have some more singers do this. And I said, you might not find people. If you do, let me work with them. All right, so we're back to this big chart. So let's go to jazz. So we're going to do sultry jazz and the fish lips. Remember, ooh, like that. And blowy is pretty standard. And you can go into head voice. That's part of the style. Like when I sing like that. Those higher notes are head voice. But there's actually 3 kinds of head voice. The one we want for pop singing, I call forward heady, because you'll feel vibration here on your hairline or here on your forehead. You don't want a classical sounding head voice because that'll sound weird if you do, I'm singing jazz like that and then I'm singing like that. It's just not right. So I'll pass on what those other two head voices are that we use in vocal styles in Western music. But you just want the forward one like that. And then, so I would say of the 5 styles we're looking at today, by far, we're going to have more head voice in the sultry jazz style. And in the show jazz, the one with the big band, much less head voice, because you want to take the chest sound, the talking sound, much higher because the music's so much. You've got to sing over the horns, even though you're being microphoned. So let's see what else. When it comes to jazz, you can kind of do what you want because you want your voice to sound like an instrument, like you could have a very low larynx and then pull it up and you can bring it down because you're imitating instruments. And there's also a lot of phrasing going on. I have a whole article on phrasing. It's called Figuring Out Phrasing because it's such an interesting topic. And people would say, oh, Frank Sinatra, he's such a great phraser. And I go, well, what is it? What is phrasing? So I put my little thinking cap on and I thought about phrasing and realized there's a lot to it. So if you're interested in me sending you my article, which is Figuring Out Phrasing. Probably a book could be written about it, which I'm not going to do. I may eventually do a little ebook on American pop singing, because so many people around the world love singing American pop music, karaoke, or as their career, but they know they're not saying it right. So I might fill it out and really look at all the different rules so people, particularly for soul pronunciation, because that's the standard one. So anyway, email me if you'd like Figuring Out Phrasing to see more of my thoughts on that. Now, jazz has a more knowing, meaning I've lived life. I'm older, I'm mature. Some people think jazz can't be really sung by young people because they haven't lived enough. They haven't suffered. They haven't been through trauma or relationship breakups, that it's really a mature sound, that sultry jazz can be quite meditative. It can put the singer and the listener into a mood. It can be very sensuous. Not always. Again, the more swing jazz it is, the more then it's not as sensuous or meditative, but the sultry jazz is. So they're both jazz. And you can do it all. This whole thing is about not having limitations. It's about possibilities and exploring and saying, you know what? I studied classical, but I really like jazzing. I think I'm good at it. So experiment, and you might be surprised that you're better at a style than you think you are. Just give stuff a try. Sing along with the greats. One of the hallmarks of jazz is what's called scatting, scatting, scatting. And it's really the vocal imitation of instrumental soloists. So you could be singing along, you could practice by singing along with a trumpet, a clarinet, a saxophone, and you can use syllables like ba, do, ba, ba, da, ba, da, ba, do, but you could just make them up. It doesn't have to be particular syllables. And you can practice them and get really fast at it. But most scatters or jazz students are listening to and imitating Louis Armstrong. The two others that I recommend are leaving my brain right now. But the famous instrumentalists of the 20s, 30s, 40s, Coltrane, that's a good one. Can't remember. Sorry. And you can use Fry too, because Fry is so evocative. But I don't recommend that you use too much Fry. You don't want to sound like that all the time, because it's a little bit is all you need. You don't want people to hear Fry. That's true for all the stylisms, like, to me, this is my opinion, like fry, cry, growls, slides, yodels. If you overdo it, people hear it and it sounds fake, like it becomes distracting is what I'm really trying to say. So in each song, I would only use one or two of these, one or two fries, one or two, because you don't want people to notice it. You just want people to feel things. The R&B can be many different things. It can be, and jazz and R&B are related. But one of the hallmarks of R&B is that it very much related to the Black church. And in the church, the tradition is to have people sit in church for all day. And the music's amazing, and the preacher has a preaching style of loud, soft. It's always almost making people stay awake, keeping them excited about the message. And that preaching style is part of many of the R&B sounds, particularly solo singing. And I'm going to make certain sounds, certain words more important than others. So I'm stressing. Word stress is a very important part of R&B singing. Certain syllables will be louder and others softer, like that. Also notice when I get louder that I'm changing my resonance. I'm not just getting louder, I'm actually adding resonance. Louder now. And that's nasality I'm adding ring. I might be adding the superior pharyngeal constrictor. Hey, I might be adding that on some low notes, the inferior pharyngeal constrictor. But the point is you want rapid change. When I'm singing like that, no. You hit it, you back off. Hit it, back off. So sudden shifts in louds and softs and sudden shifts in resonance is one of the hallmarks for solo, but not everybody does that. But it's something to listen for that you might not hear in regular pop singing. I tend to use the jazzy vibrato for when I sing. R&B, I might use the one that makes the hyoid bone do like that. It doesn't rock. I use a wide pharynx, the one that goes wide. And the reason is that I'm genetically small. So when I sing with neutral, I don't sound very authentic. I sound blacker, to be honest, if I go wide here and I lower my voice box. So I have a larger pharynx because I don't actually have that naturally. So I make it wider and deeper, like that. So when I sing like that, can you tell? It just sounds more soulful, we could say. So not everyone has to do that, but because I'm narrow there, I want to sound like I have a bigger throat. It's also important to learn, if you're interested in R&B, to learn licks. Licks, by the way, you can use the word licks, riffs, or runs. Licks, riffs, or runs are all the same thing. And I've been for a few years amassing and transcribing great licks from great R&B singers. Eventually, I'll have them in a pamphlet, so you can actually follow along. You can go to the YouTube link that I've marked out for them, and you can hear and see at the same time. And I find that for trained musicians, it's very useful to see the patterns and how wonderful and complex they are. So it's like scatting, but for R&B. But it's based not on instrumental. It's based on the blues scale. Yeah. No, yeah. It's based on the blues scale, and there's certain stylistic elements. So I work on this a lot with my students because they don't come from living with this music as kids. There's a tendency for them to go, yeah, no, where everything's even. So we have to get the sliding right. Yeah. We have to, that's a 5-note tail, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Or a 3-note tail. No. Yeah. 3-note tails are very common. So there's ways, that's a whole other course on learning to sing licks in a very natural, soulful way. Typical R&B emotions it is sensual, but also quite assertive, particularly for women. The women in that culture have had to be strong for centuries in America. And so you hear a lot of the women having really strong personas, and sometimes the men are a little weaker. Interestingly, they're a little more romantic, baby, don't leave me. I'll be good. I promise you, I won't walk out on you. But the girls are like, what have you done for me lately? They're just more, give it to me now, because I'm strong and I'm beautiful. And mercurial, this is an interesting word. Mercurial means you can shift on a dime. You can change your mood very rapidly. I can be threatening one moment and I can be enticing another moment. Quite mumbly. When I'm singing like that, it's not important, It's the sound, it's the feeling, it's the whole body experience rather than the precision of each word, and that the message has to be, is the most important part of it. A lot of slides. Lots of slides, mostly up. When I do that. So those are just plain slides. You start on a lower note. There's also this thing, no. And when we're almost done, and then we're going to go through some stylisms so you can try them. Blues runs we talked about, and fry slides, but lots of sliding between the notes, and that comes from Africa. All righty, let us do country full tube. Let's try it. We're going to say honk to start. Honk, honk, honk. Well, actually, no, we're going to do honk. Honk creates the full tube. Feel like your tonsils are touching. Have no space between your teeth, just enough to get half a finger in. Honk, 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 constricted here in the throat. And this tends to be a tony, meaning you don't hear air. It's got a lot of that very intense vocal fold sound. Even when I'm soft, it's not a lot of breathiness in it. Quite nasal, I've got it in my nose like that. It's got more nasality than ring in it. It's the most nasal of these styles. If I had to pick one, it would be country. I often do it with a number 2 larynx, the slightly raised larynx, if you want to feel that. And I'm using a southern style with a hard R. Hanging, playing, singing. So always with the in, not the ing. Playing, saying, singing, running, and the hard R. Mother, father, sister, brother. So that it's unique in that use of the R. And some of the emotions that it really does better than other styles is honest. I'm just going to tell it like it is. You don't like me? I'm good with that. If you don't agree with me, live and let live. Just here's what I think. Opinionated is another one. It's like, I've got these views and they're strong, and you're never going to change my mind. And that's all there is to it. And you can just go back away. Resigned also. It's like, yeah, life is hard. Life is tough. Marriages don't last sometimes. And you just got to buck up and deal with it and be strong. And, because the life in Appalachia and Tennessee, Alabama, I have a whole family that grew up, 11 kids, a dirt floor shack with a still that made illegal whiskey in the cave in the back. This is part of my genetic heritage. Not my cultural heritage, but definitely my genetic heritage. This sort of this tough, resigned, we'll get it through. We're going to make it work. So that's some of the characteristics of country singing that I think are really useful. Now let's take a moment, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about these stylisms, because if you have come from the classical world, this is crazy stuff. Stylisms, pop stylisms, I call them. And I've done workshops at the Voice Foundation on this. Ooh, I think I'm in the mood to show you something. I'm in the mood to show you that. This is I'm really proud of this book. This is Sing at the Top of Your Game. I wrote it with Singdaptive, which is a fantastic instructional site. And I have a number of videos I've made for them. One of the things I think is the most useful about this book for you or your students is half of the book is about the business of the pop music business. And I interviewed a lot of LA people, a lot of artists, and its information is hard to get out there. You know, it's really contemporary information that gives artists, people who want to be professional pop singers, an idea of what's involved, the kind of work that's involved, the kind of actions that they may need to take. So this is also available as a book or an ebook on Amazon, Sing at the Top of Your Game. And I highly recommend it if as a present to someone who may be starting out as a pop singer and wants to, and it's not just for pop singers who are artists, it could be singers, you know, what they get paid. I mean, that's great information, right? Like, how much do I get paid as I'm a singer on a cruise ship? I love that. How much do I get paid if I sing at weddings or clubs or churches? I got all that information for you in the last 5 chapters of the book. Okay, thanks for taking a peek at that. So let's try a few of these together, shall we? We're going to try the cry. No, can, to. And if you can't do it, don't worry about it. I have some friends who are amazing singers, and it's just not something they can do easily. It's not something to work on. You can do it, great. Can't, don't worry about it. Fry, we've got the open fry. Ah. We've got a closed fry. Ah. Fun, huh? And we've got the fry slide. Just make sure you hold out the last note. Creaky voice is a fry on a high note. And that's great for rock singing too. I'm going to add that to my rock. Okay, so it looks like something's happening with the audio right now. Don't go away. Got a little bit more for you. So I'm hearing that there's something freaky with the audio. And am I getting, yes, see, and we're getting a little bit of, what is it called? Lag. Asymmetry. So if you're getting really weird, just turn your speakers off, wait 30 seconds, and it should fix itself. So I don't know why it's doing that, and I do apologize. Let's try a little bit of growl. If it hurts, stop. But I want to growl softly and with breath. Woof woof. You could also try like a dog. Woof 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 woof. That's a barky growl. A glide. Let's go up. Let's go down. Slide down. Now you glide all in one. Come from me. So zoom less. You gotta do that. That's not easy. You can do it all in head. Notice I'm not thinking up and down. Am I thinking forward for the low note? I think backwards for the high note, and then forward again for the low note. That's the best way to practice these siren sounds. Fall offs. No. When you feel that the pitch drops off at the end. With a little maybe no. But that actually leads us to shadow vowels. Shadow vowels are no. After the O sound or after the oo sound, say you. It just puts a little final emphasis on that word. You, I'm talking to you. Versus I'm talking to you. See, the shadow vowel, the wa, really makes it you. And then if the final vowel is A or E, then we're going to say the other shadow vowel, which is me, the ya, me, play. I'm not going to play that game. So not something you're going to do all the time, but when you want that little extra punch, add a shadow vowel to a word that ends with a vowel. Licks, I mentioned licks, also known as riffs or runs. nasality shifts. Try this when you go, ah. I'll do it on a word. It'll be better. No way. Try that. No. That's not nasal, right? No way. No way. It's echoing too much to stop T, so I have to stop. I have to stop. I have to stop. Oh, I'm just going to take a pause. So I've got Mike helping me. Mike Scala is helping me, and he's saying take a pause. Good time to go to the bathroom, get something to drink. Ooh. You know what? This is a good time to do. This is a perfect time. Thank you, Mike. To get some questions in, because basically I covered everything I wanted to cover with you. Let me just say that I want you to have fun. If it hurts, it's wrong. If it doesn't hurt, play, experiment, watch great singers, have fun. And if you're classical, don't worry. All right, let's go to the comment. Let's see if there's any actually. Okay, so it stopped. Sorry, guys, I don't know what that is. And I hate that. I hate when that happens. So I think we're good now. Any questions about what we talked about, whether it's anything. And if you were at the last webinar of mine, and you had some leftover questions about belting, about vocal registers. Okay, Ani, I can put you up if you don't mind. There we go. So Ani is on Facebook, and she says, many singers suffer from GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, that affects their singing. Do you have some advice on how to solve that problem? Well, Ani, I actually have a lot to say on that, more than I have time for. But singing can make reflux worse because here's your stomach and here's your diaphragm. And if you do a lot of powerful singing, it can actually create more reflux. So one of the things is to not eat at minimum 3 hours before bed. Never sleep on your stomach. Do not drink water before bed. Again, if you can stop drinking or eating 3, some say 5 hours before bed, that will help. There's also a couple of products that I've used because I used to have a serious problem with it. One was called Esophageal Guardian. Then you take a couple of those. It's similar to Gaviscon, Gaviscon is this white gooey liquid. They both Esophageal Guardian and Gaviscon share one ingredient called alginic acid, which is algae. And when it hits your stomach, it creates a foam barrier to help keep your stomach contents within your stomach so it doesn't pop up. But I find that the Esophageal Guardian is easier to take than the Gaviscon. But most laryngologists I know recommend the Gaviscon before bed. Unfortunately, the alginic acid only works for 4 hours. So if you're sleeping 8 hours, you may need to get up in the middle of the night and take another swig or another Esophageal Guardian. Those are berry flavored tablets, and they do need a little bit of water. My reflux problems tend to happen in the 6 a.m. before I wake up, not in the middle of the night. Also, eliminate acid foods, especially after 12 noon. So that means no lemonade, no spaghetti sauce, no tomatoes. Limit any acid food in the afternoon. So that's a really good start. When I have students with reflux, it's usually because they drink a glass of water before bed. So when you cut that out, sometimes that's all you need to do. So let's see. I hope that helps. Oh, the handout again. Okay, so let me put the little handout here for you. And when this is going to be on my YouTube channel for another week until March 9th, and we'll have the links listed there so you can get that at that time. Okay, I need to go back. Sorry, I need to go back to. I can do both at the same time. Yodeling, yeah. Deborah, let's see if I do both. Okay, Deborah, Hello, nice to meet you. I've been trying to do the yodel in blue, but just can't do it. Well, a lot of the people who can't yodel are classically trained. Would you just put in the chat box if you're classically trained? Because in classical training, you try to. Oh, sorry, Charles, about that. So I'll just send it to you. It should work. When I checked, it worked before. Anyone who needs the handout, just email me, lisa@popeil.com, and I'll get it to you. So back to yodeling. So if you're classical, there's this, you try to make a smooth transition from chest to head. Yay, yay, yay. And you want the opposite for yodeling. For yodeling, I would say don't have good posture and don't have good support. In fact, just slump over like this. Let me hide you. And let me get rid of that one. So you just kind of slump over like that. And on the chest voice note, make it really loud and heavy. Hey, 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 like that. And then when you go to the head voice, make it extremely soft and light. Yay, 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 yay. Also, you can try those vowels, a and e. Yay, 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 yay. So it's very loud to very soft, very heavy to very light, very thick to very thin. Oh, oh, oh. You may have luck also going from O to oo. Oh, 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 oh. But don't support. That's one of the keys to breaking. And doing sixths. Yay, yay. Or, oh no, that's not a sixth. That's a fourth. You could do sixth. Yay, 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 yay. Yay, yay, yay. Try sixth, major sixth, or perfect fourth. Yay, yay, oh, oh. And those are the tricks I use to teach people to have a bigger break. So I hope that helps you. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. We talked to Mary Rose. Let me read this. Mary Rose, we talked about 3 resonances and each amplifies higher overtones, right? Good question, because when I was growing up, learning to sing, which started in the shockingly I started when I was 6. So that was something crazy like 1962. Resonance was used to mean where you feel vibration. They'd say, give me more resonance, and they meant more sound. Or they'd say, I want you to put your resonance here, or put your resonance here, or put your resonance here. None of that's resonance, that's vibration. So I separate vibration as where you feel vibration, and resonance in the more scientific way, which is the way that the vocal tract, throat, mouth, and nose shape to amplify or weaken the harmonic series, the buzzes, the notes emitted by a complex vocal fold vibrational pattern. So it's to me, it's the actual shaping or what people call filtering to amplify or weaken harmonics emitted in the vocal fold buzzy sound. And if you want to say vibration, great. Don't mix them up. Just like I don't like to mix support and breathing. Too many teachers call it all breathing. That's really confusing. Always confused me. Like, do you mean breathing or do you mean support? So I recommend if you teach to really keep those separate because they're completely separate tasks. All right, Vilka. Oh gosh, how many years has it been, Vilka, since I was in New York with you? 15, 20? My goodness. Oh. With a beginning singer who doesn't have any vocal technique yet, when do you introduce all the stylisms? Oh yeah, no, I hardly do stylisms at all. It's really more for the teachers, just to know what's out there. It's really for just advanced singers who just need a little more spunk in their singing, a little more expressive interest. So never with beginners, they don't need it. Always posture support, fixing problems that I might hear. I want people to get to the songs. I didn't want to do the amount of exercises that I did. My classical voice training was an hour every week, starting at the age of 7. And 50 minutes of that were long vocal exercises from low notes to high notes. And we did 10 minutes of working on songs. I think there's so much that you can learn by working on songs and fixing as you go. So I like to have people not do a ton of exercises, only when necessary, not as what the vocal lesson is made of. I want it, there's just too many, there's thousands of songs, and there's performance, and there's musicianship, and there's gesture, and there's so much to get to. And I think people get stuck in doing exercises, and then they never get good at singing songs. They can do the exercises, which to me is kind of can be pointless. Randy. Oh, you did it. It worked for you. Is that cool? Good. Yeah, because it you're welcome. It's like, don't do anything right and you'll get it, right? If you stand tall with good support, you can't break your voice. Oh, it's funny. There was a famous, thank you. There was a famous Texas yodeler, and he was on NPR, and he was amazing yodeler. And they said, well, how do you do that? And he goes, well, I don't know. I just do something in my throat. And you're like, okay, cool. Okay, here's Taimei. Hi, Taimei, who's so interested in range. She's always thinking about different kinds of ranges. Taimei has been my student for a long time. Can you have two singers who are mezzos, but one can sing higher now? Yes, mezzos is not a for sure thing, meaning it's not in stone. Having said that, most sopranos have a D at the bottom, unless you're really tall. They have a D at the bottom and an F at the top, 3 1/3 octaves. If you're a tall soprano, you're more likely to have a C3 to an E6. So I see that a lot. I'm a mezzo, and mezzos to me have a B flat. Again, if they have a standard 3 1/3 octaves, low B flat to a high D, or low A to a high C sharp. But but that's what I'm seeing a lot of, is that if I know your bottom note, I can pretty much tell you, men too, what your range is. But everyone should remember that there are two things that give you your voice. One is your range, which is based on the size of your vocal folds. And the other is the shape of your vocal tract, your head, your throat, your mouth, and your nose. So you could have a soprano head on mezzo vocal cords, or vice versa. You could have a tenor head, baritone vocal folds, or vice versa. So you're not just one thing. Plus, some people are really flexible, really like double jointed flexible. They tend to have bigger ranges. And those who are kind of tight in their joints, if they're sitting cross-legged and they can't get the legs down, might have a smaller range. So flexibility plays a key as well. Let's see if there's anyone else before we call it a day. DPC, belters dance and move on stage. A wrong coordination, how belters should dance. Yes, but belters who are dancing on stage still are quite stiff in the body, or I should say rigid. In order to belt, you can't be loose. You can't just sway. So if you look at belters, if they move at all, and many don't, many have dancers behind them that are doing a lot of the movement, but you'll notice a lot of tension and activity from the toes, ankles, legs, hips, and there's a firmness. You need to have a structure to be a loud, controlled belter without vocal distress. So when I see belters singing high and loud and they're swaying, they're going to lose control. And so I tell them, I'd rather you stand still and move the arms, because then you can give the illusion of looseness and let the dancers take over and do all the heavy movement. But yes, just the rule is belters don't sway is something I've said this last couple of weeks in particular. So from the hips down, you want to have some rigidity. I'll put it that way. Okay, Deborah. So Deborah said that she wasn't classically trained, but when she was doing the yodel, but that probably means that you have a pretty smooth transition from chest to head. Oh, Jim. Hi, Jimmy. Phrasing. Oh, it's too long, but I'll give you the quick synopsis and then email me to remind me to send you my article. Phrasing is, how do you connect one word to another? Do you rush the note? Do you drag the note? What's the the syllable's relationship to the beat. Is it on the beat, before the beat, after the beat? Where do you take a breath? Do you keep singing and then take a breath, or do you take a breath here? That's all part of phrasing. It's all the sort of the not singing parts. It's how you get from one note to another. It's where you put the note in the rhythm. It's where you take a breath. Those are three, and there's much more. And word stress is an important part of phrasing. That's four. There's a lot more. They're choices that an artist makes according to the conventions of that style. And these styles do have conventions. They have not rules, but things that make them unique. And that's what I really wanted to say to everybody, is that if you try to keep things simple and look at the rules, then you can start breaking and you can start combining. One last question, if I may. Let me go. I'll do two quick ones. Valentina, hello. Oh, thank you. The difference between, I don't teach mixed voice, and I don't teach mixed, because to me, chest voice can be soft and loud, breathy and clean. It's just talking. So I can use that sound, which some people might call mixed voice. To me, it's M1. And we could look at the vocal cords and we would see that clapping. So this is a different way of looking at registers. I always believe that you're in one or the other. And the chest doesn't have to be low, loud, and heavy. It can be anything that sounds like you're talking. Talking. I'm calling all of that M1. And belting is just singing up high and it's not in a head voice. It could be loud, it could be, and you can make all these choices. So you've got choices, and there's not some mysterious third register. My current research, to me, convinces me that I can see with the camera which one I'm in, because they have different vibrational patterns. So I teach my students, always know which register you're in and make a choice. So you're not in some blend that you don't know what you're in. You're always in a register, know which one you're in, because they have different flavors. And the last one, Stephen, flexibility. Do you have some suggestions for increasing flexibility? If you mean agility and speed between the notes, that's one thing that the exercises are really good for, is just even the lip trills. Just quickly moving, or doing riffs. Yeah. If you're doing R&B licks, you just go faster. Yeah. And just trying to speed them up. So, but for general flexibility, lip trills are great. And so there is a place for vocal exercises, and this is one of them. Well, it's time to say goodbye for today. Again, I apologize for the handout problems. They worked before, and I'm always here for you. It's my passion to share my life's work with you, and to have you experiment, explore, and enjoy your unique voice. Only you have this voice. No one on the planet has ever had it or will ever have it again. So I hope you found this useful and you have some takeaways, and I'm available for private lessons. I offer half-hour and 1-hour private lessons, and you can contact me through my website, popeil.com, at any time. And let's stay in touch, and I'll let you know if I do this again, or if I just create a whole teacher. I'm thinking of creating a whole teacher training, certification in the VoiceWorks method. So I'll keep you all posted about that. I want to make sure I have all your emails, though. If you're interested in me staying in touch with you, please do send me your emails. So thank you so much again for joining me. It's an honor that so many of you stayed with me till the very end. I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.